Welcome people to the room, and if you're on the live stream, probably not that many people on the live stream because we sent the Zoom link to everyone. However, if you're watching a replay on the live stream, you can skip ahead about 3 minutes and you will get to the actual start. But of course, maybe the start is not where you want to be. Maybe the end is where you want to be. Maybe the preamble is where you want to be. Who knows where you want to be? Welcome to people in the room. This is going to be a session. It's a Friday night no bullshit marketing stories with Patricia and Mark. And if you'd like to do so, it's Friday night, right? But maybe it's not Friday night where you are. So please do rename yourself and say where you are, because it might be Friday morning if you're in the West Coast, or it might be the middle of the bloody night if you're in somewhere in Asia or Australia or something. So rename, and maybe also type in the chat to focus yourself. What is it that you're hoping to get out of this? Is it just sort of you want to learn a few things about how marketing has worked differently for Mark and Patricia when they've been doing very different things? You're a yoga teacher or you're a coach, what are you? So it's nice to know if you want to type in the chat as well. I want to look at everyone, but then if I do, then you'll appear on the stream. And so I can't look at all of you. Patricia, what nice people are here?
Hi, I'm just trying to read from the chats. Maryland, US, Windsor, Canada, Rosalba in London. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, you can type it in the chat or change your name. Yeah, if that's possible. I don't know if that's possible, but maybe. Just so we get a feel for everyone's name.
Right, if people write it in the name, it's even better because it stays there as opposed to the chat, which disappears. And if people also want to write their main job, I know you may have 10, but if it's yogi, whatever, you won't be needing your pronouns, but it's better if you want to put your name, your location, and your job. That would be awesome, because that way we can kind of speak to your real concerns, whether you're a mindfulness teacher or a coach. Is pretty different. Like the flowers. I got flowers. I treated myself. Hello, people. Welcome. If you want to turn your camera on, it'd be really nice to see a few people. It helps us teaching with Patricia today. However, if you're going for a walk outside and you want your camera off, I totally get it. If you want to stretch your legs, I do that all the time now. So don't feel like you have to be sat. You can be on the beach like Nadra, who's in Italy again. She's always somewhere nice every time, like a garden, a beach, somewhere pleasant. She knows how to live. Not like us stuck at home.
All right, Mark, we're on time. So I'll press the record button and do a quick little intro to this for everyone. Then you can get rock and rolling. So yeah, in case you guys didn't know where you are, welcome to our Friday night no bullshit marketing stories session with Patricia and Mark. So if you want to spend your days living and breathing your passion and actually helping people without the worry of money weighing on your shoulders, you're going to have to tell some people what you do, and telling people what you do is actually called marketing. So that's what Patricia and Mark are going to be talking to you about today, because it's the missing piece for so many within this community. I'll be tech hosting, so if you need any sort of techie stuff, feel free to private message me and I'll try and sort it out for you. As Mark said, we'd love if you had your cameras on, because it's just kind of more interactive, gives the feedback, see what you like, what you don't like. And also headphones. Mark's here, so there's going to be swearing. Patricia's extra nice, so maybe there won't be from her. But yeah, headphones recommended. And be aware, if you are invited to speak, this is being recorded. You click that button saying so just then, I believe, so you know that. But also feel free to invite any friends to this event. So there will be replays on July 19 and 20, so that's Monday and Tuesday. So I'll pop some links there in a sec, so you can, if you want to share either this Zoom link for people to join straight away, or you want them to sign up so that they get the emails so they can get the replays for the session that was on Wednesday, also a session coming up on Sunday, you can do that. Just here you'll just get a taste of some marketing things that you can apply to your business and in your life, really. So a little bit about Patricia. She's the co-leader of Embodiment Unlimited. She's been a yogi and meditator for almost 2 decades. Is passionate about sharing deep spiritual work from a very grounded and earthy experience. And there's Mark, who's the founder of Embodiment Unlimited and the conference. has taught ethical marketing to over 10,000 heart-based coaches, trainers, practitioners, and teachers. So, without further ado, over to you guys.
Thank you. Swearing in Spanish as well, Patricia, or German, or one of the other languages. I'm thinking we could mix it up today.
Hola, hola, bienvenidos a todos, todas.
Beautiful. So questions in Spanish in the chat is possible. And I think German and Portuguese and a couple of other things. I speak basic Russian and English, and this will mostly be in English. So the plan today, 20-minute rapid introduction to ethical marketing. Who's kind of heard my basic ethical marketing thing before? Give me a wave. You need to have your cameras on. Okay, so a lot of you have, so it's going to be a quick, fast recap. If you're new to it, this might be a bit like, because it's going to be pretty quick. The reason I'm doing my bit quicker is so Patricia and I afterwards can talk about some of the more sort of depth psychology stuff. Patricia's far more mature than me and a therapist. And we're going to talk about some of the sort of really, how would you describe it, Patricia, the kind of underlying stuff for people in marketing?
So there are two ways that Mark and I talked about this. And one of the things is learn what you actually have to do, like the technicalities, the practical things. Show up, put your name on it, make yourself be seen. And these are things that we gotta practice, and we gotta learn to feel comfortable with this. But we also have to know what's causing those undercurrents, right? So why is that happening actually? Because while this might be wonderful and this might be enough to clear your path and go running down, like the prairie, at the same time, sometimes if we don't address those underlying issues, it's just like bumping yourself against a wall, right? You guys are familiar with that feeling?
Like, we've all read the books, but we're not doing it, right? Why not? So that's why you need to, like, in the ethical marketing course, which Steve will put up some point, there's about 3 or 4 hours of just like the theory. And then the rest of it's like practices, embodiment, mindfulness stuff, because like that's what actually stops people. Now, you do need to know the basic theory. It takes me 3 or 4 hours to teach that to most people. You do not need an MBA, right? The first thing I normally do start with is kind of a reframe of what marketing is. If you haven't put your chat or how are you, where are you in the chat, please put that in your name, because it really helps me get a sense of maybe what you do. The basic thing about what marketing is, though, is just telling people how you can help them. That's it. Okay. So it's really not that big a deal when we look at it that way. But why don't we look at it that way? Well, most of us have had some pretty bad experiences of sort of business and selling and advertising. And we've come to associate it with sort of lying and greed and making people scared and manipulation. And when I first started to work in business, I've worked in a lot of organizations now, but it was about 15 years ago I started to work in business. I was expecting them to be sort of evil people. And then I discovered they were actually no nicer or better or worse than my hippie mates. And that was a bit of a shock, because I don't know about you, but I was brought up to sort of think that rich people weren't good people. I often give the joke of a nice car would drive by and my mum would sort of go, make a noise, and my dad would make a joke about the guy having a small penis. And I was sort of, it's just told me that rich people weren't good and, good people were poor. And I got involved in work in Africa and work with kids. And I didn't have much money, and I thought that was sort of noble somehow. And it's still good jobs to do. But when I worked in business, I had to do a lot of internal work on myself before I could, do successful things like the conference and the Embodied Facilitator course. Because I realized that it wasn't just about learning the marketing skills. It was about getting rid of some of my sort of limiting beliefs and embodied issues around it, and the kind of stuff Patricia's going to talk about. What about in Mexico, Patricia? Do people sort of have this thing, sort of, rich people are bad people? Is that sort of in the water there too, or is it just in England?
Yeah, of course. And this actually, every country, every culture has their like origin or the history of the trauma that causes us to think we have no access to that and we shouldn't go there, to those territories, right? And every country has its own, but at the end of the day, it happens all over the world. And of course, more countries, more than others, but that is such a huge influence that we all share.
Yeah, and it's not just countries, too, is it? It's ethnic groups. Obviously, we have different ethnicity, gender. There's other factors, but basically, everybody's fucked up more or less, and in slightly different ways. And this is the kind of stuff we'll get to. And if you don't believe me, just say the word money out loud. Everyone do that in your first language. Your lips will move, so I'll know you're doing it. Say the word money, and now say the name of someone you love. Someone that you're not arguing with, that you just really care about, like my niece. And is there any difference between the two in how your body is? Or say the word marketing or sales, and then say the name of someone you love. So most people have some contraction, maybe your breath stopped. Any of that happened? Maybe put it in the chat. I can see a lot of you are like, oh, it's obvious, right? So, we've all got stuff, and that's human. It's not our fault, but if we want to succeed in what we do, we need to remove that. First thing I help people actually is this question. Can marketing feel good? Can it do good? Yeah. Can it be aligned with our values? Can it be of service? And, if all it really is just telling people how you can help them, then why not? What really helps is distinguishing evil and good marketing. I'm deliberately using very primitive terms here. Yeah. Sometimes I say Jedi versus Sith. This is from Star Wars. Don't watch the shit film, but the old ones. These are like magician warriors in this science fiction film. And there's the sort of light side and the bad side of the Force kind of thing. And marketing's like that. It has kind of two sides. So it's really important that we say, right, if I'm going to get good at marketing, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it according to my values. Yeah. So what do you not want to do? Let's just check if you can still do marketing. So in the chat, what do you not want to do? So I spat money out. I smiled with love. Yes, Kathy, that's pretty typical. What do you not want to do in your marketing? So let's just make sure we differentiate this so you can not throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't want to lie. Okay, fair enough. Don't want to be pushy. Great. You don't want to mislead, manipulate, lie. You want to create fear. Wonderful. Be salesy. What does salesy mean? Inauthentic? You don't want to bug people. Right. So here's the good news. You don't have to do any of that. Oh, someone said ask for money. Oh, you do have to do that. Bad luck. That was the only one so far that you have to do. The rest actually are. Not only would I say you can do marketing without them, I would say if what you want is sustainable long-term business with people of similar values to myself and Patricia, you shouldn't do those things, right? If you lie and steal and manipulate and blah, 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 it's going to come back to you, particularly in the internet age where the internet talks. The internet's like a fucking gossipy village, okay? You do that stuff, you're going to get caught out, your reputation's going to be trashed. All right. So I would recommend not doing any of that for your own soul, but also for your own business. Yeah. So if it's not manipulating, lying, what is it? Well, here's a few other ways to look at it. Okay. This is the reframe. For some people, this might be enough. In 10 minutes time, some of you can go home. You've got everything you need. Okay. So the reframe, one reframe. If you've got a sandwich and there are hungry people, is it good or bad to tell them you have a sandwich? It's not a trick question. So people are hungry, you've got a sandwich, and you say, did you know sandwiches fix hungriness? Yeah. Or maybe you've got a burrito because you're in Mexico and they don't know what a burrito is. And you say, it's a bit like a sandwich, but tastier. And it's full of meat. It's not one of those shit vegan ones. Right. So now, and they say, oh, actually, I'm a vegan. And you go, okay, don't worry. There's somewhere else you can go down the road that does vegan burritos. Yeah. So now we're not trying to convince anyone. We're just informing people and we're looking for the fit. Okay. So this is the idea that you don't have to persuade. It's like romance. You know, it's like, why did I get married to my wife? Because we're a good fit. Right. Like very few people would tolerate me. Okay, like someone that we get on well with on different levels as people in bed, blah, blah, blah. So it's not like I have to trick her. In fact, I didn't want it. If I tricked her, she would have found out pretty soon and would have left me by now, right? Instead, it's, are we a good match? Do we work well together? So clients are like that. This means you do not have to be pushy. In fact, you're interviewing them. You're interviewing each other. So why would you be pushy? right? Like Sarah's here. Sarah L started off as one of my clients and actually ended up working for me in the end. All right. I didn't have to be pushy, did I? I just said, look, this is what we do. We do this kind of yoga. And if you're new age, you won't like it. And if you're body beautiful, you won't like it. But if you like swearing and rude jokes and something deep and personal, then you might like it. And Sarah had a little taste of it. And eventually she came to England and did the training. And I think hasn't regretted it. Is that fair to say, Sarah? So at no point did I have to be pushy with her. Also, I didn't have to be needy. I wasn't like, Sarah, please come to my training. I need your money so much. Oh my God. Okay, we were just in a conversation as two grown-ups saying, is this a good match? Some of you should never work with me. Ever. Okay, who's not been washed before? Give me a wave. Give me a wave. If it's your first time, Anna. Okay, Lucy. So some of you are going, this is brilliant. It's such a breath of fresh air. Oh my God, this guy is so clever, so funny. I'm learning so much. Some of you are going, what the fuck did I sign up for? What the hell am I doing? This guy is a complete dickhead. Yeah, you know, dickhead. Okay. Others of you would hate me, but you'd love Patricia. Would it be fair to say, Patricia, we have a very different style, even if we have similar values?
Yes, I would agree.
Who already prefers Patricia to me? I'm going to close my eyes for my ego. Okay, some of you probably do. And that's okay, right? It's okay that not everyone's in love with my wife. That would be annoying and I have to fight a lot of people, okay? It's okay that, I don't know, I'm not gay, all right? But I've got gay mates. I live in a town with loads of gay bars. It's good that there's gay bars here. Because if you're a gay dude, you want to go to the gay bar, right? That's better. You with me? So now we don't have to be pushy, we don't have to be weird. We just have to find the people who are best fit for us. You don't have to put yourself out there, okay? It's just about finding the people, letting them find you even. So from this point of view, not only is telling people you have a sandwich not a bad thing, it's a good thing, okay? Letting people know how you can help them is kind. Assuming, can I just check, who thinks what they do for a living is basically a good thing? Not everyone loves it, but it's basically like a positive thing. It's good for the world. No one's killing kittens for a living, right? Right. Like my yoga teacher, my conscious dance teacher, Sarah has a kitten right there. So assuming what you do is a good thing, you're not lying about it. Telling people about that good thing is a kind thing to do. Is there any hole in my logic? Tell me if I'm full of shit. This is actually quite simple. Just fucking tell people about your sandwich. They can decide if they want the white bread sausage sandwich, that's me, or the vegan horrible black German bread sandwich, or whatever the hell you sell. There's different types of yoga, there's different types of conscious dance, there's different types of people within the same organization, like me and Patricia. Different styles. Yeah. Makes sense? It's not that hard. From a reframe point of view, people get this quite quickly. And for some people, they realize actually not marketing is evil. Yeah. Another way of looking at it, two more frames before I hand over to Patricia in 5 minutes. One, it's just a set of life skills. Like the washing up, or who had a shower in the last week? Okay, most of you, or a bath. Patricia didn't put her hand up. Patricia, what's going on? What's going on in Mexico? Is there water shortage? Okay, so you don't go, oh my God, I have to have a shower. It's such a strain. It's such a hassle. You just have a shower. Or like, who cleaned their house in the last week? Right? You just clean your house. So another way of looking at it is it's someone's like, no, fuck it. I don't either. It's just a life skill. Okay, you don't need to make it weird. You don't need to bring all this. Oh, what would people think of me? Oh my God, don't make it weird. If you do want to make it weird, because I know most of you are a bunch of hippies, okay? If you do want to make it weird, this is the kind of weird I would make it. Make it into a spiritual practice. Why is marketing a better spiritual practice than any of that yoga and meditation bullshit? Why do you think marketing is way better as a spiritual practice, or business generally? Way better as a spiritual practice than any of that nonsense we all do, including me. Well, it's an act of service. It's helping others. Absolutely. That's a classic spiritual practice. It's really confronting, particularly with two things, classic Buddhist themes, believe it or not, I'm a Buddhist. One is greed. Okay. You get greedy when you start making money. That's human. If you think you don't, you're fucking way more dangerous than me. Okay. The other thing is you get scared. Marketing requires creativity. It requires courage. Yeah, because you will be criticized. Who likes to be liked? Put your hand up, human beings, unless you're an utter psychopath or like me, a little bit counter that. That's a minor psychological flaw. Okay, it does make me good at marketing in this way, but not in others. So if you like to be liked, which is most people, Patricia, do you like to be liked? Do you have to be liked?
Not really.
Okay. Ooh, what does that look at how she says that? I believe her, don't you? Smoldering. What does not having to be liked give you?
Freedom.
Even though you gives you freedom, right? Okay, freedom to do many things. Freedom to say no to your partner. Freedom to say to sell what you want. Freedom to be what you want. So if we're addicted to this, I have to be loved, I have to be needed, I have to be liked, then marketing is going to be really difficult. So essentially, marketing is, and it's very human. Yeah, we're going to get into this deeper stuff shortly. So it's a hugely deep spiritual practice to constantly work with greed, with fear, with our need to be liked, with our creativity is a big part of marketing. Empathy is the best sales skill you'll ever had. Who's empathic here? Who's a good listener? Patricia's a way better listener than me. I'm average at best. That is the most important skill for marketing. Do you know why? Do anyone know why listening is the most important? By the way, I've trained high-level, multi-million-pound salespeople. They agree with me on this. Even like the most hardcore, like tech salespeople in London. Why is empathy and listening the most important skill? It's so you understand your client's needs. Like someone will come to me and they'll say, "Oh, you should do my yoga class because I trained with Iyengar and I've got the." I'm like, I don't care. I don't give two fucks who you trained with. Stop being so autistic, right? I'm like, tell me about me. Like, how are you going to meet my needs? Well, I don't want to be flexible. Do you know why I go to yoga? It's not because I can finally suck my night. I don't need to be that flexible, right? The reason I go to yoga is just to chill out because I'm super stressed from overwork. Right? The reason I go to yoga is so I'm nice when I meet my wife for dinner afterwards. It's got nothing to do with being flexible. I don't need to be any more flexible. I can do all that shit, Does that make sense? So do you know why your clients come to your yoga class, your massage, or your five rhythms? If you don't, ask them. Listen, there's the beginning of the spiritual practice. There's the beginning of good marketing. It's not about you. No one cares about you. It's a selfless practice, marketing. Yeah. You have to get out of your own way and put yourself in your client's shoes. Empathy. Yeah, what's in it for me? Exactly. There's other things that are part of it, but that deep listening to the client. To use their language, there's other parts to it. And, the technical skills of marketing, very, very straightforward. It's basically, once you get this reframe, the technical skills, I teach people in about 3 hours on the course, or, I teach all my main students. Once you've got that it can be play and it's just telling people how you can help them, this is the reframe. Please pick one or two. Please pick one or two now. Which is your favorite? I'm marketing now. I'm playing. I'm having a good time. I'm literally making jokes about autofellatio, right? Like, this is my marketing. You can play with marketing. Yeah. Once you get a reframe, all you need to know is basically like how to state the benefits, who your niche is, how to sell from passion, a bit about copywriting, a bit about the benefits we talked about already. Your niche, that is a process. So I do quite a lot on that on longer courses. The niche is what problem you solve for who. There's lots on all of this and all my courses, but a little bit about funnels. It's about 3 hours work. We're not going to do it now in 5 minutes. Yeah. So the actual technical skills are pretty easy. So let's go, Patricia. Patricia, why don't people do that? It's not that hard.
Yeah, exactly. So if it's as simple as these techniques, why are we not doing it? Why, even though we see, oh yeah, so put your advertising there, or tell the person next to you, this is what I do. Why do we find it so hard to say this is what I charge? Whether it's $5 or $500, whatever it is, why is it hard? What's like the worst thing? And of course, you don't have to share your deepest stories, but if we would like to find out what the worst case story is for all of us, what's the reason why we don't want to walk those next steps? What would it be? What would it what would happen if we go there, if we put the advertising up, if we ask someone to make space for us somewhere? Failure, fear, being rejected, a lot of that, right? I don't want to feel pushy. I like what I see. Yeah, so if we find the common point in all of these things that everyone's sharing is we don't feel comfortable and we don't want to feel uncomfortable. That's it. We don't want to, if I'm here and I'm comfortable, why would I go and sit on the next chair if it's going to be uncomfortable? So let's start our first step by saying it makes sense that we're not moving. Yeah.
And even success can be uncomfortable for people, right? Like the people who win the lottery, then they lose all the money because it's not comfortable to be wealthy.
If we feel it to the body when we say it makes sense that I don't want to take that next step, how does it feel? What happens when you realize, actually, I'm not being that bad of a person if I don't want to move? What experience happens in the body? Relief. Yeah. So we're looking for safety, right? When we don't want to move. Even if that's not, remember that comfortable, the comfort zone is not necessarily comfortable, right? That's one of the deals with the comfortable zone.
Familiar is familiar that rather than comfortable for some in that way.
Yeah. That's why we stay in relationships we don't like for many years. That's why we keep going to the same hairdresser or the same, dry cleaner, because it's known, right? So let's explore that. And there are many ways, I have to say this, there are many ways that we could look into all of this, and everyone is a story on its own and should be seen on its own and under a unique space. But let's say 2 reasons why we want this safety. Personal reasons. Something happened in your life that makes sense that I should not go to that place where I can be rejected, because rejection for me was the worst thing in the world at some point in my life. That makes sense. If I have to experience what I experienced when I was 2 years old and I saw chaos in my house, it makes sense that I don't go into a place where I feel that I'm going to repeat that situation. Even if it doesn't make sense in the mind, it makes sense physiologically. I'm going to walk towards there. So personal reasons, something that happened in your life at some point that you relate to that new place that you're gonna stand there, right? So rejection, as many of you shared, that's one. A relationship to power. Because if I have money, if I have status, if I start, people start recognizing my work, power comes with it. How do I feel with power? So what happened with me and my power in the past? Or what do I know about power? Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, just I can see a few people look like they're remembering the worst things that ever happened to them. So do that. Like give your body a move, have a little shake. Yeah, we're not trying to think of the most powerless we've ever been. So take care of yourselves today, right? So beautiful point though about power. This is one reason I really believe in teaching marketing, particularly for groups that have had less power. It can be really difficult for working class people in England to make money. Yeah, or certain countries I've worked with, certain ethnicities, and it's like this is part of empowerment work. Yeah.
So being seen. So all of us who at some point were thrown tomatoes, and interpret this as you wish, when we were seen. So through rejection, through harm, and this can go any way from emotional to physical abuse. When we were, that's a moment where you feel seen and chosen. So now if you feel seen and chosen to make a sale, of course, we want to think about it. Makes sense, right? It makes sense that I want to keep myself safe. How does it feel to feel into that in the body? It makes sense that I want to be safe. Now, of course, the work would be to do the actual work, to know that that belongs in the past and that I can create another reality. That something else can happen in the present time. This does not mean, and I'm going to address a lot of the new age speech, that now you're going to attract only abundance. You're going to attract life, and life sometimes it includes shitty stuff. And when we are in our power, in an adult state, we can deal with that. We can deal with what comes up, right? So sometimes this idea of everything's gonna be perfect if you work with your stuff and you don't attract things anymore, that's sort of like an easy way to trick the kid to go to school. But that's not necessarily reality, right? How does this land for you guys? Mark, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just that I see a lot of people really judging themselves about this and being like, oh, I'm so bad at marketing, and they're really hating on themselves for it. And that just doesn't work in my experience. They don't hate themselves into improvement. So like Patricia's piece about a lot of self-acceptance is not only a nice thing to do to yourself, but it's also like actually what works. You know, the Buddha said, if hate worked, I would teach you that. And that definitely goes for self-hatred. Well, the other thing I see people doing, I know what you think of this, Patricia, is people get like weirdly boastful about it. They'll be like, oh, I'm terrible at marketing me. And they say it with almost like a pride, you know, like almost like it's like more spiritual or something.
Yeah. So we're going to go into the second. I mentioned personal reasons, like things that you know and sort of like make sense in your mind immediately. But there's also historical. We could also name this familiar or cultural. And familiar, I mean, not relatable, I mean like in your family history. What's the relationship to money, to being seen, and power, like we mentioned? What's the history of how did your family do financially? So did they make a lot of money? This happens a lot. I see it like one side of the family, they made a lot of money, but they were like not nice. So the mother is like, they are so mean, and nobody should be like that. So of course the kid says that whole package is bad. So money included goes out the door. And we hear this so much, and we hear it from mother's fear, or father's, or whatever combination you need to use at this moment, that we actually don't process it anymore. And it becomes, and this is the, I know it's subtle, I know it's a little deep, but it's the reality. You do this for love, for your mother or your father. Like, I will stay away from that for in an expression of my love for you. So again, this is not to punish yourself. Okay, it makes sense. So if my mom said that was bad, I should keep on my mother's side, because she's my mom and she makes sense and she loves me. Yeah, loyalty. How does this feel? How is this landing in the body? Making sense, right? So there's lots of ways to explore this family history framework. In relationship to power that I mentioned on the personal level, we can also explore how power was used by my father, my grandfather, all of the men in the family, of course the mother. But in this type of area, it's very useful to look into father. And for example, usually we have the father associated with professional success and money because of history, not because only men should do that, but because in the history of life, only men were allowed to do that. So in our history information, we carry that through, a lot of it is carried through the males in the family system. Now it's going to be updated, but we have a lot of that in baggage back there. So I'm going to get to one of my favorite points, not because it's my favorite, but because I see it a lot. So people don't want to be more successful than their parents. Why? Why would that make sense? I want to keep them in a high place. They are my parents. And if I realize that, hey, it wasn't as complicated as you thought, or I have better opportunities than you, and I will see myself stronger than you, I'm being a bad child. And those of us who grew up with respect to your parents, no matter what they did, and that's down to your bones, that's going to be hard. The trickiest part of this is that sometimes these enmeshments of family dynamics makes sometimes one of the child, particularly if you were the eldest, it makes you responsible for your parents. In this enmeshment of being emotionally responsible for either one of the parents, super common, right? I'm seeing faces that recognize this. So having money, having status, having success, again, if the mother was needy and needing you to feel safe, she's gonna look up to you again because now you're more powerful. If she didn't have strength from her parents, she will see you as the source of strength that she never had. And of course, if we feel this, we will not go there because it makes sense. I don't want, somebody was mentioning responsibility. We don't want that extra responsibility that does not belong to us. Does that resonate for some of you? Yeah. So it's kind of messy what we will find when we open these back doors. But like Mark and I said, if we don't go there, we will try to do like the stuff on the surface, and it may not be as easy as it seems. So I would invite you, as I close this part, to take a breath and find a perspective of the present moment. Take note of what you saw that you might need to check out later, but let's get as much as we can out of there right now. And go ahead, Mark.
So this is cultural too, right? Like in terms of, like, there's some sense for me of coming from a sort of poor Irish background. It was like, oh, I'm betraying my people if I make money, you know? For other people, it's like, well, I come from a people that had a lot of power and I feel guilty about that, right? There's all sorts of ways this can roll.
Yeah. From a lack of or from an excess of. Yeah. Should I go ahead, Mark?
How's everyone doing? Let's check in with people. Like, I feel like people turn up, they're expecting marketing, and now they're thinking about their mom and their trauma, and like just trying to sort of check in with people. Are people doing all right? Like, still moving, still breathing, looking after yourself, bit of self-care, bit of self-love needed. All good. It's nice I can see a few people on camera. Some people look like pretty intense into it. It's way deeper than people expect sometimes, huh?
I want to mention one last one before we close this sort of like deep stuff, which is the backstage stuff. And one of the things that I see, even if it comes from different family dynamics, is our right to take a place. First, feel into that phrase. I have a right to be here. I have a space that belongs to me uniquely in my family system, in the world, or however you want to see it. Sometimes when we had parents who overlooked us in one or many ways, we didn't feel that groundedness of, I'm here, I've arrived, and I have a right to be here. So when people pay you, you're like, oh, no, that's too much. Or, oh, actually, no, just a little bit. I just need just a bit, just a slice, right? Yeah, so I don't need that much. And we push that away. And it's very connected to a primal life force. And money, at the end of the day, means your ability to sustain yourself, to sustain life. So that's the deepest part of that stuff that we can go, but definitely worth to look at.
Boom. I kind of feel like it's worth reminding people there's different levels. We've already looked like 3 levels. And sometimes people do the work at the wrong level to not go to the other level. So we've got the cognitive knowing, like you just need to learn a bit about marketing. Like, who's never read a book on marketing in their life? You just never read a book. Okay, go read a couple of books, then worry about your mum. Okay, read a couple of books first. All right. So like, or who's like, just the basic knowledge is cognitive knowledge, right? And then there's also just practice. Like marketing is a skill. Even let's take asking for money. Now we could look at all your psychological issues around life and, you know, your relationship to self-worth, and that's important, but also it's a practice. Like, something you could all try right now if you're willing to give it a go is breathe and then name the price of one of your classes or sessions or whatever you do. It's a centering practice. Take a breath, Relax your belly, put your feet on the floor, and then say whatever the price is. And actually just get good at that. Like some of the exercises in the courses we do aren't like deep psychological stuff. It's more just like, here's a little practice to do embodiment stuff with. Like stand up straight, take up space if that's an issue for you. All right. Now, if you've done the reframe, we did that. That's the third level. So there's reframing the basic idea. There's learning a little bit about it, the bit of basic knowledge that I teach all my students. Yeah. There's some practices that make it help. If that stuff still doesn't work, then we need to look at the deeper levels. Yeah. But don't say, oh, I need to spend more time with my therapist when you've never read a book on marketing. These are complementary things, but sometimes you're going to get the quickest win just from the more basic stuff. Yeah. So all of this is sometimes helpful. The other thing I'd say is there's always another level. Like when you make some more money or get some more clients, there's often like what was good enough in the past. Like I needed to like massively up my game during the Embodiment conference. I was like, and I was pretty like, you know, I talk about being money positive, like being sex positive. I was pretty money positive. I'd done a lot of work, but then the conference came along and it was much bigger. And I was like, whoa, I only got through the conference because I had a coaching or therapy call every single day through that conference. Yeah, like every single day, right? Because there's always that next level. So there's always work there too.
Yeah, it's very important what Mark is mentioning about knowing where I'm at in all of these layers that we just opened up very briefly, right? Sometimes, yeah, go to therapy if that's like your first calling, do the work, but make sure that you find the moment when you gotta go out and do the practice, right? You cannot learn walking by someone telling you how to walk. You gotta actually take the steps and learn as you go. And like kids learning to walk, sometimes you gotta go back. Sometimes, you know, like little kids, when they have the little brother, they go back to crawling. Do you know that happens sometimes? We also do that. It's a growth process. So again, like sometimes I will have to go to therapy, or sometimes I gotta change my strategy, like Mark just mentioned. So it's important to be aware of what do I need from all of these stages, from all of these layers.
Yeah, people are recommending books. I recommend my course as much better than a book because you actually work through some stuff rather than have a book. Unmarketing is a good book. If you don't like me, Tad Hargrave's very good. George Cow has a free podcast. They're very good. So there's a couple of people I'd recommend straight. Tad Hargrave on niching is very good. The thing is, though, you really need to go through a process. Right. So even Tad won't just send you a book. He's got like what's called a niching spiral group, and you go through a process on it. It's not really enough just to learn about it unless you're literally, it's like, you know, my first marketing book ever, which is useful. You know, one of my students, his biggest problem was just that he didn't do any marketing. He had zero psychological issues, it turned out, around it, or very few. He just didn't do any. And then as soon as he started doing some, he got better at it. And then his business made money. It's like literally the only thing he had to do was block out a few hours a week in his diary. Like, so sometimes it's that simple. Normally it's not. Normally some of this, what did you call it, Patricia? Backstage. I call it the inner game as opposed to the outer game. The backstage stuff, you have to look at least a little bit. At least a little bit.
Yeah. And
Patricia,
yeah. Go ahead.
I just realized in the last 20 minutes. So should we take some questions? And if you want to take put a question in, make it one sentence, maybe even write it down before you type it, because that helps get it clearer. And we'll look at the question and we'll decide either myself or Patricia answering it based on what kind of question it is. So even though we both do both, today I'll take the sort of super pragmatic stuff that just looks more like practical issues. And if it's clearly sort of more psychological stuff, then we'll give it to Patricia. But just to not put either of us on a box. We both, you know, Patricia has a business background and I also do the depth work. So yeah, so stick a question in the chat and then we'll see which category it goes into. What about making it? Okay, let me tell you this, Jolly. This is a really good teaching point. Why would I not give my work away to free to everyone? I would love everyone to have it. I would love the world to benefit. So Jolly's asked a question which illustrates a point. Who would that be unkind to? Why would it actually be abusive for me to give everyone my work for free? That would be a form of self-harm, and also for the 25 employees I have who'd be homeless pretty quick if we didn't make any money. Yeah. So this idea of you should give things away because it needs to be learned, it's like, well, yeah, in a perfect world, but that actually would be self-abusive of me. We do give things away for free because we believe in, getting stuff out to as many people as possible. We're pretty generous as a company. So I think that question illustrates the not understanding that selling what you do is a form of self-love. And just practically, I've got rent to pay like everybody else. So good question, but not for maybe the reason you thought. Yeah. Is there a subtlety to a beginner? Yes. So how is this different to beginners? I saw someone ask before. For beginners, I'd say from practical point of view, then we'll look at the depth point of view on both. I think both for this. So for beginners, it's like just realize that you're learning something and it may take 3 to 5 years to get good at it. Yeah. So don't be too harsh with yourself. Don't expect massive success straight away. There is a learning process, and I had to go through that. Like, I didn't go to business school. I didn't have business people in my family. It's not magic. You do have to learn something. So that's the first thing I'd say to beginners is it's all about learning, listening to your clients and finding the particular thing that you love and are good at. Both of those things matter. Patricia, what's different for complete beginners in this? Is it just sort of less confidence? What do you think?
I'm not sure. I have a simple answer for that. Who is the beginner? Like, beginner at what? So maybe someone doesn't know anything about marketing, but is pretty confident about, like, I can go ahead and be a public face, and I'm good with receiving. So that person is a beginner marketing wise, but not a beginner in what you need to get yourself to be a person of marketing, or however you want to call it. So I would say more than a beginner in more psychological terms, like, where do I stand? So what beginner in what? Like Mark was mentioning, it's important to know where do I stand in all of these layers and all of these spheres that we all have. So for example, some people who go into like a lot of therapy and like more quick courses, they will say like, I know my worth and I'm like super worthy, so I will charge like 100 million thousand and you should pay it because I'm worth it. Yeah. And that doesn't really make sense, so we're placing one thing in place of another, and we gotta be, that's why it's important to have a very balanced growth in these areas.
Yeah, people getting inflated and puffing themselves up. I call this the L'Oreal problem, that because I'm worth it. Like, the market gives not one shit what you think you're worth, right? Like, that's irrelevant information. Whether you think you're not worth it or worth it, the market's just like, I don't care. Yeah. Someone made a very valid point there in terms of like, what if your customers can't afford what you do? Well, some people use that as a strategy for self-abuse. They deliberately pick those markets. I would say there's 3 basic solutions. One is the Robin Hood principle. So I do work with the gay community for free in Moscow because I do corporate work for lots of money. Okay. Another principle is scale, where you just do a lot of units at a very cheap price. So you have to have a scalable thing. And the third model is grants or charities. And that just means you have to get good at marketing. There's another kind of marketing, writing grants or running a charity. So you don't actually get rid of the problem. You just shift it to someone else. Yeah. How do you ensure that your authentic self comes through? Very easy one. Very good question. Love this. You feel gross, you get exhausted, and your clients will tell you. Okay, everyone just be inauthentic. Say like, oh my God, you should like totally buy my stuff, Patricia. It's amazing. Like aside from the comedy value, I just immediately go, eh. And it's tiring. Like, I'm too fucking tired most of the time to be anyone other than myself. Yeah, people are like, oh, do you deliberately swear because that gets you? And I'm like, no, it's just how I fucking talk. I'm too tired to bother to talk any other way. Yeah, so it's like it's energizing to be authentic, exhausting not to be. And your clients will also just go, ew, because we all have a good bullshit radar. If Patricia was trying to be something she wasn't, you'd all just be like, I don't want to listen to this person. You'd be logging off. Anything you want to add, Patricia, about how do you ensure you're being authentic? It does take courage, because often there's that voice of, but what if people don't like me? Maybe I should be a little bit bullshitty.
Yeah, I know it's hard, because particularly if we're stepping into all of this and it's new, it will feel draining as well. It will feel uncomfortable. It will feel, but go ahead and taste it so that you know in your body, like the difference between I'm faking it and I'm going through it. So go ahead and experience it, play with it. And people, close circles of trust will help you with this. Like, hey, I'm gonna try and sell you this. I'm gonna try to talk to you about what I do and tell me if it resonates or it's like next, like a very like your teachers, not the teacher that sold you the certification. I would advise you, but somebody who tells you like, go ahead, you're ready. And it's not your mom usually, right? Or your best friend, because they will usually tell you that. Yeah, like once I had one very close friend of mine. She was like just off her yoga teacher training. She hadn't practiced for more than a year, and she's like, "I'm doing my first class. Like, cheer me up." And I'm like, "No." She was like, "I'm super scared. I'm feeling a lot of doubt." And I'm like, "Of course you feel doubt. Like you haven't really practiced, and you just stopped your training." And like, that's not what I want to hear. Like, So
People say, how do I gain confidence? I'm like, do it a lot, get feedback. Then your confidence is not based on saying, I'm amazing, I'm great. It's based on the reality of clients saying, I get a lot from your class.
yeah.
I get a lot massage, whatever. It's just based on their opinion. And say it out loud. Like if you're wondering if your website or your email is authentic, say it out loud. If you feel like a twat, it's not. Okay. If you feel like this is gross, I never speak like this normally, it's not authentic. Like sometimes teachers say, what do I say on my website? My yoga classes, people love them because they're like really relaxed and chill and down to earth. I'm like, call it relaxed, chill, down to earth yoga. Like the normal words you use are the best ones, right? Like particularly if your client uses them too, actually, that's the disclaimer there. Yeah. Let's move on from that one, just because there's some more good ones here. How do you ensure access and sustainability? Yes, that's a really lovely way of phrasing it. Well, our model for doing that is the freemium model. It's what we're doing now, right? We have a free thing and then we have a paid thing. I think there's no perfect solution, but that's one. The other model is that you give away a certain amount. So about 1/10 of my time, maybe a bit more, I just give away to people, right? So that's another model. Neither of those models is perfect. Okay, did we miss a question? Cool, yeah. Someone said it also undercuts the market doing free stuff. Yeah, it can.
People also asking about rates and how they determine that, which I think you have a little bit to say on as well.
Determine rates, yeah. So I'm going to give it the practical, as it were, and then Patricia the depth side of it. Yeah. Your rate is what your customer will pay. And then if you want to make it more sustainable, either by giving freebies or reducing the price, you can. So let's be clear about those two stages. Your rate is as much as you can possibly charge that your client is willing to pay. That's capitalism, baby. Then, because we're not just evil capitalists, we're also people that want to make our stuff accessible, you may lower that price or give away free places or something else. So get clear about those two stages being different. Yeah, some people I know have full price or free and nothing in between. Some people have sliding scales, whatever. You don't determine your price by your needs. You will have to determine your price by the market, what other people charge, if you're a commodity. So a commodity means it's like milk, it's all the same, right? You don't have to do that if you've got a niche. Okay, so people I'm sure go across Mexico City and pay money that it's not the cheapest rate for Patricia's particular way of doing things, because she's got a style, she's got a technique, she's got something that's not common. It's like, is my wife competing with every woman in the world for my attention? No, because she's my fucking wife. She's in a niche of one. Yeah. So do you see what I mean? Like, she doesn't have to worry like about some pretty other Ukrainian girl walking by, because there's a niche of one in that case. Yeah. So this is the thing. Once you can do something that's special, beautiful, different, unique, your clients will pay more, and then you don't have to worry about what other people are charging. Okay, so that's kind of logical and easy, right? Charge what you can, then make access if you want. Why is that not so easy for people, Patricia?
I will jump on what you said about it's not charging what you need, but the actual value of the work, right? In psychological terms, again, it's not the value that you think you should have, like I just mentioned, right? It's the value of the work. We start from the practical, and then why am I not easily facing that? And ask all of the questions that we just did back when we discussed all of the things that are happening behind the scenes. A lot of this is sometimes treated as self-worth issues, right? And I'm not sure that I can give out like one advice, because it really depends on the person. For some people, it's like, yeah, like don't charge less than this and go ahead and just put it out there. But for some people, it's like charge if you have another job and you're able to charge like an entry level rate where you feel comfortable, and you don't have to go through all of the I'm not gonna live up to expectations, I don't feel ready. Go ahead, and if you don't feel ready, don't charge as if you feel ready, as if you're already like in that master place, and ease your way into it. Don't think of it as underselling, but walking your way to that place of confidence. And when you're there, it's gonna be there if you're doing the work.
Yeah, love that. Like, I remember when we first founded EYP, I gave it away by donation. Then eventually it started to piss me off. And I went, hang on a minute, this doesn't feel right anymore. And then we built that up from there and, made it a good practice over a few years, actually. I think people rush into this sometimes. The other thing is your opinion doesn't matter. Like, whether you think it's good or not doesn't matter. It's whether the client thinks it's good. So this is where your low self-esteem or your big ego, neither of those make a slightest bit of difference. Get yourself out of the picture and ask your client. If 10 people say you're a duck, quack. If 10 people say your yoga is amazing and you should charge more for it, charge more for it. You know when your students, you think you're undercharging because they start bringing you cakes and stuff. Like when you're undercharging, your students start giving you advice about Bitcoin and free cakes and trying to set you up with their sister and God knows what else, because they're trying to give back to you. Because actually, human beings are beautifully reciprocal. We're actually naturally reciprocal creatures. If you do a favor for someone, they want to do a favor back, right? So if you're undercharging, that's a favor, right? So they feel indebted, right? They're constantly trying to give something back. Yeah, unless it's their particular pattern, of course. But someone said, where did you find your calling? In my body. Next question. Any advice for getting easily, we've got a whole course on life purpose. Any advice on getting easily discouraged yet? First of all, it's normal. If you're not easily discouraged, you're an egomaniac or a psychopath. Okay. It's absolutely discouraging to launch a product and no one buys it. It's absolutely discouraging to be hated. It's just really human and normal. And it's okay to be discouraged, right? The trick is you dust yourself up, talk to people who love you, and then get back in there. Like, that's life. Like, did someone tell you it was all going to be easy? Of course not. It's normal. Discouraged.
I'm going to highlight what Mark said. So it's two things. You can work with that resilience that everyone says that, and you can like talk to yourself and have your vision boards and your mantras on your mirror and stuff like that, and find the marvel of lifting yourself by your own means up. That's beautiful. But also, we don't always have to use that technique. Sometimes it's calling your best friend or your neighbor or your whomever is a great person. I'm like I'm down, like I need help. I cannot see the light right now, and allow yourself to be taken care of. And if you don't have that circle, find it.
You need that. Yeah. Someone in Russia was asking me how to deal with haters earlier. It's exactly the same thing. You need that support as well. Like sometimes my students phone me up and they just say, Mark, tell me I'm awesome. I'm like, you're awesome. You can fucking do it. You've got this. You're telling me I'm stupid. I'm not stupid. I would never pick a bad mentee. Sometimes we just need that encouraging person. If they're not in our head, we need them in real life, right? Listen, guys, we need to wrap this up, but let me show you an ethical sales technique by me selling something to you if you want it, okay? So we have a course on ethical marketing. It's not for everyone. I don't have to be pushy because for some of you would fucking hate it. Okay. Here's what I'd say. If you know loads about marketing already, it's probably not for you. If you want to learn the basics of the outer stuff, and some good inner stuff as well, it might be a good fit. It's an online course. So, you know, for those of you who just like working through stuff in your own pace, it's useful. Here's what I'd say. If you're not sure, don't get it. If though you're mostly a yeah, this is good, I need this, then get it. Right. So in terms of, I'm not trying to make you scared, I'm not trying to make you anxious. It's just to say, like, you've got a few days before the price doubles again. It's still, you know, early, but we're still doing an offer for a few days. It's not like super scarcity or anything. But let me just ask you, actually, who is at a point where they go, I would actually really like to improve my marketing? I'd actually really like to. Yeah. Okay. If you're not at that point, don't get it, because you won't do it. You won't be motivated. And who sort of likes my style? If you like Patricia's style, unfortunately, she's not in this particular product. But if you kind of like my style, you think, you know what, this guy, even if he's a bit of a knobhead sometimes, he basically knows what he's talking about on this topic. You don't have to love everything about me. Who thinks I basically know what I'm talking about on this topic? Like, I've got something to offer. You've stayed this long, so you probably had, you know, there's probably a reason you stayed. So if you think, I want to do something about this, and I think this guy basically knows what he's talking about, even if he's a knobhead sometimes, I would get it. That would be my advice. Okay. And you don't have to. If you're like, oh, I'm not sure, I haven't got the money right now, then don't get it right now. That's okay. That's okay too. Steve has a link for it, I think. So you can maybe show them what's in it, Steve, as well, just in case people are still pondering it.
Yeah, so I might come back to Patricia and Mark just to get like a final takeaway in a sec, but just a few things. First up, like, the course was designed for teachers, coaches, facilitators, understanding that professionals in the field. So advertising yourself and selling your product is something that you actually need to do. So let me bring it up. The course, where is it? Here we go. So the course has about 5 hours each of the inner work and the outer work that Mark is talking about. So 7. So if you would like to go into that, there's the inner journey stuff, which has about 5.5 hours. The outer journey, which is 4.5, that's the external skills. There's also access to bonus content from George Cow, Julia Chanteray, also an ethical marketing group, Facebook group, to get that community aspect and learn from one another what's happening. So there's some bonuses where Mark does a whole heap of embodiment coaching or marketing coaching with people. George's course is included there. And also then there's the entire course. And as you can see, it's split up into topics, first starting with money stuff and going sort of from sort of basics into the advanced and the exercises around it, and then going to the embodiment of it. So these different layers Mark talked about.
Well, go back a bit. Let's look at some of the inner ones again. What resonates with people? Money and trauma. We only just touched on that. Shame. Oh, we haven't talked about shame much. Patricia, we could have gone into that. That's the good one. I'm teasing you a little bit now, to be honest. But gratitude, coming from gratitude, not scarcity. That's some juicy stuff. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
That's kind of what we're doing right here. Fight, flight, centering. So not selling from a place of trying to bring in panic. Also, as you said, there's these different things Mark introduced, say the sandwich model, persuasion, marketing as romance, these sorts of things. Again, going deeper into that and different problems, looking at niching, as was talked about, finding your ideal clients for you and how to do sales, making it actual practice, a tantra, and then going into more advanced versions of it, and also the specifics, things like SEO, Facebook ads, all these sorts of things, and then stuff you do as an ongoing bit as well. So there's a whole heap of stuff there, and split into both the bonuses and the other section. So if you're interested, do check it out. It's available until Tuesday at half price, and then it will be increasing as we sort of go into other stuff, other background as well. If you'd like the replays for this, it is available from July 19 to July 20, so that's Monday and Tuesday as well, and you'll get an email about that.
Eve, we need to wrap up. I want to finish with a little story that's a personal story, and maybe Patricia has a closing comment, but we need to be both pretty brief, actually. So last night I saw on Facebook my niece, who I adore and has quite serious special needs around ADHD and autism spectrum. She had a really bad time going to the secondary school near her house that she's due to go to. She fucking hated it, and my sister's freaking out. So I just sent my sister a text message last night saying, any private school, I'll foot the bill. Right? Now, she does not have to worry about money being an issue in that circumstance. She may or may not take that offer up, but the fact that I was able to make that offer is a beautiful thing. The fact that I don't have to worry about making money so I can go to my yoga class tonight and I'm not freaking out about money, my wife's not freaking out, is a beautiful thing. So people say money doesn't matter, and they're right. It's not the most important thing in life, right? Compared to love and health and, you know, richer through poorer. I think my wife would still be with me if we were poor. We'd still love each other, but I wouldn't have been able to do that last night. And that might make a very big difference to her life for the next 5 years. Patricia, closing comment?
Yes, for closing. We all have a sense of that image of where we want to be, what you want out of life. Very clear, very concise, or wide or general. Does that need money? It usually does, because at least you have to be here, right? So all of what you do is in service of that. That's it.
Beautiful, Patricia. Gracias. It's been a pleasure. Should me and Patricia work together again? What do you reckon? She's the yin to my yang, but yang enough that she doesn't take any shit from me. I think we're a good team. Brings in different skills and wisdom. Everyone who thinks Patricia should be back on, what do you reckon? Give her some love. She doesn't need your love, but it is nice. Okay, good. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Patricia. And thank you to you guys for making space to actually look at this stuff, because it's not always comfortable. So well done for making space. So cheers, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Oh, we'll do the final fuck off. So we always finish our workshops by saying fuck off in our first language, or if you prefer, thank you or goodbye. So unmute everyone, please, Steve.